Ladies and gentlemen, this is a story that came out in U.S. News February 6, 2019. Now, we know there are a lot of people that are dying from drug overdose in America. Well, more and more of the families of these victims of overdose are donating their organs for people that are waiting for a transplant. And that number is increasing every single year. Opioid OD deaths are saving lives through transplantation. More than 70,000 lives were lost to drug overdoses in the United States in 2017. Now, some of those touched by these tragedies might take a little comfort knowing their loved one heart helped save a life. Nearly 18% of hearts recovered for organ transplant in 2017 came from people who had died of drug intoxication. That number was up from 1.5% in 1999. Over the last 2 decades, we have seen a tripling of deaths, the death rate, and that's true. But just understand the CDC publishes numbers that come from 22 states only. They are not giving you the numbers from all 50 states. They don't want to do that. It's just to cause confusion and keep you from the real numbers. At the same time, the number of organs has increased 12-fold, which shows the attitudes about whether these organs are viable have also started to change, with the most change in the last 5 years, said study senior author Dr. Mandeep Mehra. He is a medical director of the Heart and Vascular Center in Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. One of the biggest concerns is using organs from people who abuse drugs, particularly those who injected drugs, is the risk of serious infection. Potential infections include HIV and hepatitis C. Mehra said that about 4 of 10 potential donors who die from drug overdoses have infections. I would imagine they do. I mean, how do you not have infections and you're constantly putting something unnatural in your body? You're injecting it in, and I have seen the skin infections on some of these heroin addicts, pictures of the skin infections from all those injections. Yeah, that's going to happen. That's to be expected. Okay. Dr. Alan Langness, chief of transplantation at Nebraska Medicine in Omaha, added that the risk of someone getting HIV through a transplant is highly unlikely because testing is very good at detecting all but the most recent infections. Last year, Medra and his colleagues looked at all organ donations and found that 1 in 10 donated organs came from someone who had died of a drug overdose. The study also found that after a year, people who received organs from someone who had died from a drug overdose were doing just as well as those whose organs came from someone who died from other causes. The latest study looked specifically at heart donations to see if there were any geographical differences in the use of donor hearts from people who died from drug intoxication. Between 1999 and 2017, more than 37,000 hearts were recovered for donation. More than 1 in 6 of those hearts came from someone who died due to drugs. I mean, I understand why they're doing it. It's not a bad idea, especially if you have a lot of people on a waiting list. But yeah, I am still concerned about what many of these people might have had due to drug addiction. And that's why they're checking for HIV and hepatitis, because many of these people are having sex for drugs. Many of them are sharing needles, and that's how they're getting these diseases. I was reading an article, and I did a video on this probably more than a year ago, how people in the rural area, the HIV is soaring in those areas because of all of the needle sharing that's going on. So, I would have a concern for that. Definitely, especially if you have somebody in your family waiting for a heart. All right. There was a large variation in the use of donor hearts from drug deaths. The findings showed hearts from people who died of drug intoxication were more likely to be recovered in the Northeast, Midwest, and Southwest, according to the report. Medra said the biggest reason for the differences is likely an issue of supply and demand. Yeah, those are population where you probably have the most drug addiction in the country. All right, and they're saying it's a high density area. There's a demand in people who are waiting for heart transplants. He explained Nebraska was an area with a lower rate of donor hearts from drug deaths. Langness said he suspected those lower rates were simply due to a lower population and less availability. There's no main barrier to using these organs. Every organ donor is unique, and the potential for organ damage from death isn't unique to drug deaths, Langness said. He added that transplant programs are enormously grateful for families that are willing to donate organs under such difficult circumstances. The study showed that for every 1,000 lives lost to a drug overdose, between 6 and 7 lives are saved through heart transplants. Medra added that the number underestimates the impact because many other organs can be used to save lives and drastically improve people's quality of life. Medra also he hoped this finding might give some solace to the families of those who lost loved ones to drugs, and added that the researchers support and encourage all efforts to target the drug plague. Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. But I don't know. I have misgivings, but I understand why they're doing it. If you have a shortage of these organs and you have people on waiting list, I guess if there's no damage to it and you can't find any infections, I guess it's the best next thing for a person that is waiting, and they may be in a very critical state and just can't wait for a long period of time without risking possibly losing their lives. But please tell me what you think. I'm not surprised this is happening, and I'm sure it will increase as this addiction rages on in the country. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.